This is the video where I went on a trip to Italy using my new point-and-shoot camera, the Nikon 35 Ti with Portra 400, and the first stop is Cinque Terre.
Dang, it was so good. He had orange and there's orange. She's gonna say €5.
Every morning we would pass by this street and just look at the locals and see what I could first photograph. We would then continue to walk around as we go and head to the train station and see what other things that I could photograph. We then reached our next destination, and definitely you had to prepare to walk a lot of stairs because pretty much this is what the town is made of. And it was cool to explore because, again, it is definitely different from what I'm used to back home. I would always see pictures on the internet about Cinque Terre, and I've always wanted to visit here because it seemed like a magical place that I would have never experienced back home. The Nikon 35 Ti has always been a white whale camera for me, something that I've always wanted, and before this trip, I told myself I had to figure out a way to find this camera and be able to bring it on this trip. This camera produces amazing quality photos, and I know it has a high price range for the average point and shoot camera, but for me, I feel it's worth it. During this trip, I literally brought my Leica M6, anticipating that I would use it more than my Nikon 35 Ti. But I actually realized I ended up using the Nikon more and the Polaroid SX70, probably more because of the convenience and just being able to capture something just on the go. And even though the Leica is not that hard to use, let's say, there's just something about still taking the time to use a rangefinder. I know here in the US it's a luxury to say that you traveled to Italy. However, for me, this was my first time and I really had a difficult time being here due to personal complications, and I'm just being honest and transparent. Just because you see a picturesque place, that doesn't necessarily mean that the person had a great experience. However, I tried my best to make the most out of it and want to share with you the pictures that I took. When I first arrived in Italy, at the airport I actually lost my baggage and I had to wait for 2 days until I could get it back again. And so for 2 days in Cinque Terre I had no clothes at all. I had to literally go buy new stuff and then wait until I could go back to Pisa again where the airport was, and literally had to kill time because there was only a certain time to go and get it. And so we walked around, we explored, and I used the Nikon camera to literally take as many photos as I can by following the light, because for me that's the best technique all in all. When you are able to find the best light, you can capture the best photos.
It looks so different from far away. Car ruins.
Gotta jump.
We then walked around and looked for souvenirs and t-shirts so I could bring back home. And at the same time, I never expected that I would experience seeing the landmarks that were in front of me, such as the Leaning Tower, because I've always seen it in textbooks when I was in school or even on the internet, where people would post very touristic photos where they're pushing the tower or pretty much just taking these cheesy photos. And if you know me, I'm not into that. And my goal being in Pisa was literally to bring Francesco to the top of the Leaning Tower, despite he's a local in Italy, and we experienced going to the top of the Empire State Building in New York City. I wanted that if ever I disappeared or I wasn't around anymore, every time he would see the Leaning Tower, hopefully he would remember that a girl from New Jersey brought him to the top of the Leaning Tower. And so we walked so many stairs, there is no elevator, and pretty much once you reach the top, I was so exhausted. However, it actually had a great view from looking above and looking down, and so I took the photos that you're about to see right now. Visiting Venice for the first time in person, as I've said in a previous video, is that there's so many other locations that made replications of the Venice canals, but there's always something that can never copy the original. And so for me, I felt like it was a place where I could capture so many different things, even though you can see so many gondolas or boats and same similar architecture. I felt like everywhere I would look felt like a movie scene that I could just envision in a movie of some sort. And so I really enjoyed capturing as many photos as I can here, because again, there's just no way that you can capture a location like this with just a roll of film. You probably need more than 5 at least. Day 2 in Venice, we went to 2 islands and had to ride a ferry boat. And so, honestly, again, I didn't even know they existed, and I just did what I could to capture what I saw in front of me. We then walked on the local streets and admired the scenery, all the different boats. There were no gondolas in this island. However, can you believe this boat is a taxi? The way how it's designed and the craftsmanship, I'm always gravitated to wanting to capture details of the boats and take photos. And so for me, I just rarely see these kind of things back home, and so I took advantage of being able to capture things like this, especially just the local life. I'm a city girl, and seeing things like this are just something that I just want to capture, the everyday life here. The last stop that we went to was Florence, and I had a lot of anxiety and nervousness when it came to going to this city because I've heard so many great things from my friends, and I've seen so many things on video call or in photos that Francesco has shared with me, because he hosts Airbnb experiences where you could use a Polaroid camera and walk around the city of Florence. And for me, it was very surreal to be here finally in person. And I have to admit, out of all the places that I went to, this was probably the most emotional one, and not in a good way. I tried my best to take in what I could from this city, and it's unfortunate that many people have shared again great experiences and memories with this place. And for me, I just wanted to see what I've always been seeing, and this was a place that had a lot of tourists more than locals, I felt, and I kept getting rejected even though I'm the type of person to ask permission to take photos of people. And half the time I don't even know if they were local or not, but I would ask if I could take their photo, and I've never been rejected so much. And so I ended up just taking street photography type photos, and the one thing that I try to avoid the most is to do the most touristy photos like this. However, again, I try to finish a roll as much as I can. That's like a pet peeve of mine, to have different photos shot on one roll. I try to use the whole roll at one situation. And even though I had the Leica M6, during this whole trip, I again have always just used the Nikon. It was something that I didn't expect that I would be so comfortable using. And the photos that came out of this camera, I still can't believe after I got it developed and I scanned it myself. And so I wish I was able to experience Florence for what it was. And I was just lucky enough that I was able to capture the photos that I did. This is probably one of the hardest things that I'm going to share, and I just want to be honest and transparent that even though you can travel and experience something that you've never experienced before, I cried so much and I wish that I experienced something better, and all I want to do was make someone happy.
So, what are your thoughts that Joan came all the way here to go visit you and celebrate your birthday?
It was very nice. It was very sweet, and the way she did it made me feel special. And I cannot wait. It's almost over, because it seems like literally, yesterday when you arrived, when she arrived. So yeah.
What's your favorite memory from this whole trip?
My favorite memory of this trip is when we were in Levanto and we walked under the rain without umbrella. Yeah, that was very romantic.
Are you going to miss me when I leave?
Hmm?
I said, are you going to miss me?
Am I going to what?
Miss me when I leave.
Yeah, I will miss you when you leave.